This was a current, passionate, obsessive movie that comes right from where I am now.
It's the lure of wanting to not be in reality, I think, that everybody can relate to.
Just like me.
It's where your mind is at in the moment is your reality. There are not any strict rules.
I often think if you're in a David Cronenberg movie as a game, as if you have a chance to enter as a player in Naked Lunch or in Crash, heaven forbid.
You haven't ever quite seen a film like this one because it hasn't been made.
I did an interview with the writer Salman Rushdie in London for a Canadian magazine called Shift. I had the inkling before I did the interview, that I might want to do a movie that reflected in some way his situation. That is to say, a writer who had written something that he felt was relatively innocent and suddenly found himself condemned to death in this case, by a militant Islamic group for what he had written. And we talked about many things, including a discussion about whether games could be art. Could a game designer be an artist? And this really started me thinking about making a game designer the central role in a movie that would be about a kind of Rushdie-like situation.
eXistenZ. It's new, it's from Antenna Research, and it's here.
It begins as a test seminar for a new game.
I give you the game pod goddess herself, Allegra Geller.
I play a game designer and there's an assassination attempt made on her.
Death to the demoness, Allegra Geller! No!
She's on the run with a security guard who just by accident happens to be with her.
Ready? Yeah. Action!
And she encourages him to play the game with her, and so that's where there's this multiple levels of reality that we get into.
The death of eXistenZ, and we were part of it.
There's just one more thing.
What are you... whilst playing and getting to play this game, my character and Jennifer's character, Allegra Geller, are also under fire from an underground movement who are trying to get rid of this game because they believe it infringes on reality too severely.
You're with the realist underground.
Yes. I was placed here to keep an eye on Nader.
If Nourish isn't our real contact, who is he?
Nourish is a double agent for Cortical System X. He was working with Nader to subvert the realist cause, and doing it rather well. After all, he got you to assassinate your own contact.
One of the excitements, of course, about getting into the game in the movie is to find yourself questioning what reality is. To what extent do we create our own reality? To what extent are we all characters in our own game? And you know, as you get older, you begin to realize it becomes a very strongly evident and palpable thing that people define their own characters almost as though they've written them. You decide what things appeal to you about how you project yourself in society and so on. And we all do play certain roles.
Allegra Geller, you've changed my life.
I see the very sexy, the very intellectual, challenging part of it. It's a way to deal with different levels of reality, different levels of information.
Actually, it seduces you. It pulls you deeper and deeper into this game. At first, you just think, oh, I'm just watching this movie. They're just these characters. I understand what's going on. And then finally, you realize, my goodness, where am I? That's what we're realizing as actors, I think, too. Whew, how did I get here?
I hear this ridiculous story about some fatwa against you. The company are desperately trying to find you. Now, is this really serious? Are you in danger?
There have been a couple of attempts on my life already.
It's where we're all going. It's manipulation by the media. It's all those things that I think David has encapsulated in this really very interesting script.
I'm feeling a little disconnected from my real life. Kind of losing touch with the texture of it, you know what I mean? I mean, I actually think there's an element of psychosis involved here.
Yes. This is a great sign. It means your nervous system is fully engaging with the game architecture.
It just occurred to me that what people are really doing in computer games and video games is trying to get closer and closer to fusing themselves with the game. And so I thought I would just make that little leap myself, and we have the idea that a game would in fact plug right into your nervous system made perfect sense to me. It's all really an attempt to fuse with the fantasy and make it real and make it physical and make it organic.
I'm kind of a computer geek myself, so I understand the draw to it. I loved it on a bunch of levels, and also just the level of what do these kinds of games do to one's psyche. Just like what does TV do to one's psyche, or when you're just being sort of drowned by media and so much coming at you, and where you're living a fantasy, but it feels very, very real. What does that do to you?
How come bioports don't get infected? I mean, they open right into your body.
Listen to what you're saying, Michael. Don't be ludicrous.
Action!
In the very first couple of scenes, the first time the pod was actually, it is alive, it is like another character, and very quickly became very similar to my dog. You're acting with this thing that moves and that feels good to touch and that is sweet and makes these sounds and responds to you.
Where were you just now?
I was wandering through eXistenZ.
The pod is very much a character within the film, and it has an arc as much as we do. It gets, you know, it fuses, and then it's operated on, and then it's emotionally wrecked, and we have to kind of cajole it back round to life, and then we play it, and then it's sick, and it gets well again. So there's definitely a journey for the pod. There's also a journey for a gun in it made out of bones, which you follow throughout the film.
Death to the demoness Allegra Geller.
I was very disturbed by the game we just played.
What do you mean?
It had a very strong, very real anti-game theme. I mean, it began with the attempted assassination of a game designer.
Really?
I don't think you have to be a game player to understand the film or to get into it. If you are a game player, then the certain subtleties will make you smile because there's a certain awareness of game playing. And a couple of people have said it exactly replicates how it feels to play a role-playing game, and it's quite spooky that way. But if you've never played a role-playing game, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, just the role-playing that goes on in everyday life is experience enough to relate to the metaphorical use of gaming in the movie.
I think it's probably going to turn out to be one of the most interesting films that David has made.
Never been more popular.
I think this film will go to a broader audience, which doesn't normally come to see David Cronenberg's films, or not the past several films, because it is on a more accessible canvas.
I think it can be perceived on a level of great fun and a thrilling kind of roller coaster, helter-skelter ride.
Panic is just a game.